A 10-year-old girl with glowing silver eyes destroys a luxury restaurant in seconds. Every armed guard freezes in fear. But one quiet waitress walks toward her, kneels down, and offers her tea. What the waitress doesn't know, the terrified child she just protected is the vampire king's daughter. And her kindness just stopped a war. The iron gate screamed as Seraphine shoved them open with both hands. She didn't look back. Couldn't look back. Behind her, the obsidian palace rose like a mountain of frozen midnight, its 1,000 windows glowing with cold blue light. Somewhere in those halls, her father, the vampire king, was planning her entire life without asking her a single question. The alliance with the northern clans requires a union. His voice had echoed through the council chamber doors. Seraphine will marry Lord Dimitri's son when she turns 16.
16.
6 years away. 6 years to dread a future she never chose. 10-year-old Seraphine ran faster, her small feet pounding against the cobblestones. Her silver hair, mark of royal blood, whipped behind her like a flag of rebellion. The night air tasted like freedom, sharp and electric against her tongue. "Princess, stop." The guards' voices faded as she plunged into the network of servant tunnels beneath the palace. Her mother had shown her these passages years ago, back when Mom was still alive. Back when someone actually listened to what Seraphine wanted. The tunnels smelled like damp stone and old secrets. Seraphine's hands traced the walls in the darkness, following memory more than sight. Left at the fork. Straight through the wine cellar. Right at the underground stream. 3 minutes later, she emerged in the cargo district outside the palace walls. Massive carriages lined the street, their drivers asleep in their seats, waiting for dawn deliveries. Seraphine spotted one loaded with wooden crates marked Human District, Westbrook City, perfect. She climbed into the back, wedging herself between boxes that smelled like apples and cinnamon. Her heart hammered so loud, she was sure it would wake the driver. But the man only snored, and minutes later, the carriage lurched forward. Seraphine pulled her knees to her chest, suddenly aware of how cold the night was. How alone she was. The palace had always felt like a prison, but at least it was familiar. At least she knew which hallways led where, which guards would smile at her, which kitchen maids would sneak her honey cakes. Now she was heading into the human world. A world her father said was dangerous. A world that hated vampires. Good, she thought fiercely. Maybe they'll hate me too, and I can finally be someone other than the princess. The journey took hours. Seraphine dozed between the crates, dreaming of her mother's laugh, of running through garden mazes, of a life where she could choose her own path. When the carriage finally stopped and the driver climbed down, she waited until his footsteps faded before slipping out. Dawn was breaking over Westbrook City. Seraphine had never seen anything like it. Buildings stretched toward the sky like glass mountains, their windows reflecting the rising sun in shades of gold and pink. Cars hummed past on streets, so wide you could fit 10 carriages side by side. Humans rushed everywhere, some in suits, some in casual clothes, all of them moving with purpose. No one noticed the small girl with silver hair standing on the sidewalk, staring. Her stomach growled.
Loud.
Angry. Seraphine realized she hadn't eaten since yesterday afternoon. The hunger hit her like a wave, making her dizzy. She needed food. Real food. Not the bland, carefully portioned meals the palace chefs prepared. She wanted. She didn't even know what. Something warm. Something that tasted like it meant something. She started walking, following her nose toward a scent that made her mouth water. Bacon.
Coffee.
Butter. The crowds thickened as she walked. People bumped into her, muttered apologies, kept moving. A woman in heels nearly stepped on her foot. A man with a briefcase knocked her shoulder without looking. Seraphine's chest tightened. The noise, the smells, the chaos, it was too much. Too loud. Too fast. Her vision blurred. The hunger twisted into something else, something hot and prickly beneath her skin. Magic. Her father had warned her about this. When vampire children got overwhelmed, their powers reacted.
Control it, she told herself.
Control it, control it, control it. She stumbled and looked up. A building rose before her like a palace of glass and steel. The sign read Skylark Rooftop Dining in elegant gold letters. Through the windows, she could see people eating at white-clothed tables, chandeliers sparkling overhead, waiters gliding between seats with silver trays.
Food.
Everywhere. Beautiful, perfect food. Seraphine's stomach clenched, so hard it hurt. She walked through the front doors before anyone could stop her. The restaurant lobby was marble and mirrors. A woman in a black suit stood behind a podium, her smile freezing when she saw Seraphine's dirty clothes and wild hair. "I'm sorry, we don't. I want food," Seraphine said. Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "Please. I'm really hungry." The woman's expression hardened. "This is a reservation-only establishment. I'm going to have to ask you to." "I said I'm hungry." The words exploded out of Seraphine with a force that made the woman stumble backward. The glass doors behind them cracked, a single line splitting down the center like a lightning bolt. Seraphine's eyes widened.
No.
No, not here. Not now. But the magic was already loose. The chandelier overhead began to swing. Plates rattled on tables. Somewhere in the dining room, a wine glass shattered, then another, then 6 more in rapid succession like gunfire. Guests screamed. Chairs scraped as people jumped to their feet. "What's happening? Is it an earthquake? Someone call security." Seraphine pressed her hands to her head, trying to shove the magic back down, but it was like trying to hold back a flood with her fingers. Panic made it worse. The fear in the human's eyes made it worse. Everything was spiraling, breaking, shattering. A hand touched her shoulder. Gentle, steady,
warm.
"Hey," a quiet voice said. "You must be really hungry, huh?" Seraphine spun around. A young woman knelt beside her, dark eyes calm despite the chaos erupting around them. She wore a simple black waitress uniform and had her brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She looked about 19, maybe 20. Nothing special, nothing threatening. But her hand on Seraphine's shoulder felt like an anchor. "My name's Mira," the woman said softly. "How about we get you something to eat? Would you like some tea first? It's warm. Chamomile with honey." Seraphine stared at her. The restaurant was falling apart. People were running. And this human was offering her tea. Seraphine's voice cracked. "I broke everything." "That's okay," Mira said, like she was discussing the weather. "Things break sometimes. Come on, let's sit down." She stood slowly, holding out her hand. Seraphine looked at that outstretched hand for a long moment. No one had offered her kindness like this in. She couldn't remember how long. Not since her mother died. She took Myra's hand. The moment their fingers touched, the magic stopped. The chandelier settled. The rattling plates went silent. The last shards of broken glass tinkled to the floor, and then nothing. Just the sound of people breathing hard, staring at the small girl being led away by a waitress nobody had ever noticed before. Mira guided Seraphine toward the balcony, away from the frightened crowd, her grip gentle but firm. And for the first time since running away, Seraphine felt something unexpected. Safe. The balcony air hit Seraphine's face like a cool cloth against fever. Behind them, the dining room erupted in shouting, managers barking orders, security guards rushing in, guests demanding explanations. Mira pulled out a chair at a small table tucked in the corner, hidden behind a potted olive tree. "Sit here. I'll be right back." She disappeared before Seraphine could protest. Seraphine sank into the chair, her whole body trembling. Through the glass doors, she could see the destruction she'd caused. 3 chandeliers hung crooked. Dozens of plates lay shattered across the floor. A wine rack had collapsed, red liquid spreading across white marble like blood. "Father's going to kill me," she thought. Then no. Father doesn't even know I'm gone yet. That thought should have felt liberating. Instead, it made her chest ache. Mira returned carrying a wooden tray. She set down a porcelain cup of steaming tea, a bowl of chicken soup with thick noodles, and a basket of warm bread rolls. The smell made Seraphine's eyes water. "Eat slowly," Mira said, sitting across from her. "Your stomach's probably empty. Don't want you getting sick." Seraphine grabbed a bread roll and bit into it. The butter melted on her tongue, warm and salty and real. Nothing like the pristine, tasteless food the palace chefs prepared. She made a sound somewhere between a sob and a laugh. Mira smiled. "Just a little. Good." Seraphine nodded, her mouth too full to speak. "Take your time. Nobody's going to bother you out here." But Mira was wrong. The balcony doors slammed open. A man in a chef's uniform stormed out, his face purple with rage. 2 security guards flanked him, hands on their tasers. "That's her." The chef pointed at Seraphine. "That little brat destroyed my restaurant." Seraphine's hand clenched around the bread roll, crushing it. The teacup on the table started to rattle. "Sir, please." Mira stood up, positioning herself between the chef and Seraphine. "She's just a child. She's hungry and scared." "I don't care if she's the president's daughter." The chef's voice rose to a shout. "Look at what she did. $50,000 in damages. Someone needs to pay." The security guards moved closer. One of them pulled out his taser. "Ma'am, step aside. We need to detain the minor until police arrive." "No," Myra's voice was quiet but absolute. "You're not touching her. Miss Chun, this isn't your business." "Her name is Mira Chun?" The chef's eyes narrowed. "You're fired. Both of you, out of my restaurant."
Now.
Seraphine felt the magic rising again, hot and wild beneath her skin. They were yelling, getting closer. The guard's hand was on his weapon. Everything was too loud, too close, too much. The teacup exploded. Porcelain shards flew like shrapnel. The chef screamed, stumbling backward. The guards raised their tasers, but before they could fire, every light on the balcony burst simultaneously. Glass rained down in a glittering shower. Seraphine stood up, her eyes glowing pure silver.
She didn't mean to. Couldn't stop it.
The magic poured out of her in waves, making the entire building groan. "Get back!" One guard yelled into his radio. "We need backup. The target is hostile." "She's not hostile," Mira shouted. "She's terrified. You're making it worse." But they didn't listen. The second guard fired his taser. The electricity never reached Seraphine. It hit an invisible barrier 3 feet from her body and scattered into sparks. The guard fell backward, his weapon smoking. The chef grabbed Myra's arm. "This is your fault. You should have." Mira twisted out of his grip with surprising strength and shoved him away. "Touch me again, and you'll regret it." Something in her voice made the chef freeze. Seraphine's vision blurred with tears.
"I'm sorry."
"I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." The building shuddered. Cracks spiderwebbed across the balcony floor. From inside the restaurant, more screams erupted as tables overturned, sending food and dishes crashing everywhere. Mira moved fast. She grabbed Seraphine's hand, the only person brave enough or crazy enough to touch her, and pulled her toward the balcony railing. "Can you climb?" Mira asked urgently. "What?" "The fire escape. Can you climb down?" Seraphine looked over the railing. They were 12 stories up. The metal fire escape zigzagged down the building's exterior, rusty and narrow. I think so."
"Good.
"We're leaving. Right now." "But..." Mira cupped Seraphine's face with both hands, forcing the girl to look at her. Her dark eyes were steady, calm, like the eye of a storm. "Listen to me. Those men are scared. Scared people do stupid things. If we stay here, someone gets hurt. Maybe them. Maybe you. I'm not letting that happen. Trust me. Please." Seraphine had never trusted a human before. Never trusted anyone except her mother, and her mother was gone. But something in Myra's eyes reminded her of Mom. That same fierce protectiveness. that same gentle strength. Okay, Seraphine whispered. Mira vaulted over the railing first, her movements quick and practiced. She landed on the fire escape with barely a sound, then reached up.
Jump.
I'll catch you. Seraphine climbed over the railing just as the balcony doors burst open again. 6 more security guards poured out, radios crackling. Freeze. Don't move. Seraphine jumped. Mira caught her, arms solid and sure. They clattered down the fire escape as shouts erupted above them. Footsteps thundered. Someone yelled about calling the police. And somewhere far away, in a palace made of midnight stone, alarms began to scream. Myra's feet hit the alley pavement with a soft thud. She set Seraphine down and immediately pulled off her server's apron, wrapping it around the girl's shoulders like a shawl. Keep your head down, Mira whispered. Stay close to me. They moved quickly through the narrow alley, away from the restaurant's rear entrance. Above them, voices shouted from the balcony. Radio static crackled. Someone was definitely calling the police. Seraphine's legs felt like rubber. The adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by exhaustion so heavy she could barely walk. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. Can you walk a bit more? Seraphine nodded, though she wasn't sure she could.
Her whole body ached.
The magic outburst had drained her more than she'd expected. They emerged onto a side street crowded with morning commuters. Mira kept one hand on Seraphine's shoulder, steering her through the flow of people. To anyone watching, they looked like an older sister walking a younger one to school. Nothing suspicious. Nothing worth noticing. Except Seraphine's silver hair kept catching the sunlight. Here, Mira pulled a black beanie from her pocket, the one she used during winter shifts, and tugged it over Seraphine's head, tucking every strand of silver underneath. Better. They walked 3 more blocks before Mira pulled them into a small coffee shop. The place was nearly empty, just one old man reading a newspaper and a barista wiping down the counter. Mira guided Seraphine to a booth in the back corner, far from the windows.
Seat.
I'll get us something to drink. Seraphine collapsed onto the vinyl seat. Through the coffee shop window, she could see police cars racing past, sirens wailing. Her stomach twisted with guilt. All this chaos. All because she'd run away. Mira returned with 2 hot chocolates and slid into the booth across from her.
Drink.
You need sugar. Seraphine wrapped her hands around the warm cup, but didn't drink. You should leave me here. I'll only get you in more trouble. Not happening. You don't understand.
I'm
the Vampire King's daughter, Mira said quietly. I know. Seraphine's head snapped up, so fast her neck cracked. What? Mira leaned forward, her voice barely above a whisper. When I grabbed your shoulder back at the restaurant, your collar shifted. I saw the pendant. Seraphine's hand flew to her neck. There, hidden beneath her shirt, hung the royal crest, a silver medallion etched with her family's seal. She'd forgotten she was wearing it. How do you? Seraphine's voice trembled. How do you know what it means? Myra's expression softened with something that looked like old grief. My mother worked in the vampire court. 20 years ago, before I was born. She was a servant in the queen's household. Seraphine's breath caught. Your mother knew my mother? More than knew her. My mom saved the queen's life once. There was an assassination attempt, poison in the wine. My mother saw the cup being prepared and knocked it from the queen's hand before she could drink. The queen never forgot that. Mira reached into her shirt and pulled out her own pendant, a small silver flower on a delicate chain. Your mother gave this to mine. Told her that if she ever needed help, the royal family would answer. And she made my mother promise something. What? Myra's dark eyes held Seraphine's gaze. She made her promise that if the princess ever appeared alone, if she ever ran away or was in danger, my mother would protect her with her life. Tears burned in Seraphine's eyes. Your mother? Is she? She died 3 years ago. Cancer. Myra's voice was steady, but pain flickered across her face. Before she passed, she made me promise the same thing. She said, the queen showed me kindness, when no human expected it. If her daughter ever needs you, be there. Seraphine's hot chocolate blurred through her tears. I don't understand. Why would she care? Why would you care? I'm a vampire. Your people hate us. Not all of us. Mira reached across the table and gently touched Seraphine's hand. My mother taught me that kindness isn't about species or politics. It's about seeing someone who needs help and choosing to help them. Your mother saw a human servant as a person worth saving. Now I see a scared kid who needs somewhere safe to go. But you lost your job because of me. That chef was a jerk anyway, Mira smiled slightly. I've been wanting to quit for months. You just gave me a good excuse. Seraphine let out a watery laugh that turned into a sob. I messed everything up. I just wanted to choose my own life. Father's planning to marry me off to some lord's son I've never met. He doesn't care what I want. He never asks me anything. He just decides. Have you told him how you feel? He doesn't listen. He's the vampire king. He doesn't have to listen to anyone. Mira squeezed her hand gently. Maybe he doesn't know how to listen. Power makes people forget how to hear the quiet voices. But running away won't teach him. It'll just make him more afraid. Afraid? Seraphine wiped her eyes. He's not afraid of anything. Every parent is afraid of losing their child, Mira said softly. Especially when they've already lost someone they loved. The words hit Seraphine like a physical blow. She'd never thought about it that way. Never considered that her father's controlling behavior might come from fear, not indifference. Before she could respond, Myra's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her expression darkened. What is it? Mira turned the phone around. The news headline blazed across the screen. Breaking: Supernatural child attacks luxury restaurant. Authorities searching for extremely dangerous minor. Below it, a blurry security camera photo showed Seraphine's face, her eyes glowing silver. We need to move, Mira said, already standing.
Now.
The Obsidian Palace had never been silent before. Even in the dead of night, there was always sound. Guards marching, servants whispering, the eternal hum of protective magic woven into the walls. Now, nothing. Vampire King Aldrich stood in his daughter's empty bedroom, staring at the unmade bed. Her favorite book lay open on the nightstand, Tales of the Wandering Moon. A story about a girl who could fly anywhere she wanted. He should have seen this coming. Your Majesty, Commander Thorne entered, his face grim. We've searched every tunnel, every hidden passage. The princess is not in the palace. Aldrich's jaw tightened. Expand the search to the outer districts. Already done, sire. We found evidence she escaped through the cargo tunnels. A carriage driver reported seeing a small figure with silver hair climbing into his transport. The carriage went to Westbrook City. Westbrook, the human capital, the one place Aldrich had explicitly forbidden Seraphine from going. How long has she been gone? We estimate 8 hours, Your Majesty. 8 hours. Anything could have happened in 8 hours. Aldrich's hands clenched into fists. The humans had been growing bolder lately, testing vampire borders, spreading propaganda about supernatural dangers. If they found Seraphine alone vulnerable. Assemble the Royal Guard, Aldrich commanded. Full deployment. We're going to Westbrook. Sire, with respect, that could be seen as an act of aggression. I don't care how it's seen. Aldrich's voice cracked like thunder. The windows rattled. My daughter is alone in a hostile city. We retrieve her.
Now.
Commander Thorne bowed. As you command. But as the commander turned to leave, another guard rushed in, tablet in hand. Your Majesty, there's been an incident. You need to see this. The tablet showed news footage, a luxury restaurant in chaos, people fleeing, broken glass everywhere. And in the center of it all, a small girl with glowing silver eyes. Aldrich's blood went cold. The humans are calling it a supernatural attack, the guard reported. They're saying a weaponized child infiltrated the city. They're mobilizing their special forces. Aldrich watched the video loop. Watched his daughter's terrified face. watched as armed guards advanced on her. His fear crystallized into fury. They provoked her, he said quietly. Dangerously. They cornered a frightened child and called her a weapon. Your Majesty, the situation is escalating rapidly. Human military forces are... I don't care about their military. Aldrich's eyes blazed red. They have my daughter. That is an act of war. 300 miles away, in the fortified Human Security Council headquarters, Director Rebecca Morrison watched the same footage with growing dread. Play it again, she ordered. The security feed rewound. The small girl entered the restaurant. Within minutes, glass shattered. Lights exploded. The entire building shook with supernatural force. Analysis confirms vampire origin, her tactical officer reported. The power signature matches the royal bloodline. This isn't just any vampire child, Director. This is the princess. Rebecca's mind raced. Why would the vampire king send his daughter into their capital? Unless... It's a test, she said aloud. They're testing our defenses, seeing how we react to a supernatural incursion. Should we assume they're planning a larger attack? Rebecca studied the girl's face on the screen. She looked scared, alone. But scared children didn't accidentally destroy restaurants with magic. This was controlled chaos, designed to create fear. Increase threat level to red, Rebecca ordered. I want all supernatural response teams activated. Deploy drone surveillance across the city. Find that girl before she does more damage. What about the Vampire King? Intelligence reports his forces are mobilizing. Of course they are, Rebecca's voice was bitter. He sends his weapon into our city, waits for us to respond, then uses our defense as justification for invasion. She pulled up a map of Westbrook City, marking the restaurant location. Lock down the city borders. No one enters or leaves without thorough scanning. If the vampires want war, they'll find us ready. Director, with respect, what if this isn't what it looks like? What if the girl is actually what? Lost. Rebecca's laugh was sharp. Vampire royalty doesn't get lost. Everything they do is calculated. That child is a chess piece, and we're not going to be trapped into making the first aggressive move. But even as she said it, doubt gnawed at her. The girl in the footage looked genuinely terrified. And that waitress, the one who'd led her away, hadn't looked like a co-conspirator. She'd looked like someone trying to help. Rebecca pushed the thought away. Sentiment got people killed. Logic kept them safe. Find them both, she ordered. The girl and the waitress. Bring them in for questioning. Non-lethal force only. We don't need to give the vampires a martyr. Yes, ma'am. As her team scattered to execute orders, Rebecca pulled up the waitress's file. Mira Chen, 19 years old, worked at Skylark Rooftop Dining for 2 years. No criminal record. No known supernatural connections. Except... Rebecca frowned. There was a flag in the file. Myra's mother, Sarah Chen, had worked overseas 20 years ago. The location was redacted, but the security clearance required for that information suggested it wasn't a normal job. Rebecca made a note to investigate further. Outside her office windows, she could see military vehicles rolling through the streets. Helicopters circled overhead. The entire city was transforming into a fortress. And somewhere out there, a 10-year-old girl was running for her life, with both sides convinced she was the enemy. Rebecca closed her eyes. They were all balanced on a knife's edge now. One wrong move, and everything would burn. Mira pulled Seraphine into a narrow alley between a laundromat and a hardware store. The smell of detergent and rust filled the air. Above them, a helicopter's rotors thumped past, searchlights sweeping across rooftops. We can't stay in the open, Mira said, thinking fast. They'll have facial recognition software running on every street camera by now. Seraphine's eyes were wide with panic. This is all my fault. I should turn myself in. Tell them I'm sorry. Maybe if I explain. Explain what? Myra's voice was sharper than she intended. That you're a scared kid who just wanted breakfast? You think they'll listen? Look at the news. They're calling you a weapon. She pulled out her phone again, scrolling through the updates. Every headline was worse than the last. Vampire infiltration suspected. Royal bloodline confirmed. King's forces mobilizing. Experts warn. Supernatural war imminent. They think your father sent you here on purpose, Mira said quietly. They think this is the beginning of an invasion. Seraphine's face went pale.
No.
No, he wouldn't. I ran away. He doesn't even know where I am. I know that. But they don't. Mira crouched down to eye level. And right now, both sides are preparing for war based on assumptions. The humans think you're a threat. Your father probably thinks humans kidnapped you. Everyone's wrong, but they're all armed. Seraphine's hands started to shake. What do I do? Mira took a deep breath. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. Protect her with your life. But this was bigger than a simple promise now. This was about preventing a war that would kill thousands. I'm taking you home, Mira said firmly. Back to your father. But we have to do it carefully. If humans catch us, they'll use you as leverage. If your father's forces find us first and think I kidnapped you, they'll kill me before asking questions. Then what? We go quiet. No phones, no public transport, nothing they can track. Mira pulled off her jacket and wrapped it around Seraphine. Hood up. We move through the city like ghosts until we can get to the border. Then I'll figure out how to contact your father safely. You'll get killed, Seraphine whispered. Helping me will get you killed. Maybe. Mira adjusted the hood to hide more of Seraphine's face. But if I don't help you, both our worlds burn. I'll take my chances. Seraphine grabbed Myra's wrist, her grip surprisingly strong.
Why?
You barely know me. I destroyed your workplace. I ruined your life. Why would you risk everything? Mira paused. It was a fair question. The logical answer was her mother's promise. But looking at this frightened child, this powerful, lonely, misunderstood child, Mira knew the truth went deeper. Because someone should have done this for me once, Mira said softly. When my mom died, I was alone and scared, and everyone treated me like a problem to solve instead of a person to help. I remember what that felt like. I won't do that to you. Tears spilled down Seraphine's cheeks. I just wanted him to ask me what I wanted. Just once. I know, Mira wiped the tears away with her thumb. And when we get you home safe, you're going to tell him that.
But first we survive.
Deal? Seraphine nodded, swallowing hard. Deal. Another helicopter passed overhead, closer this time. Mira pressed them both against the alley wall, barely breathing until it moved on. We need supplies, Mira muttered. Food, water, cash. My apartment's 6 blocks from here, but they might have it under surveillance already. Can we risk it? Mira checked her phone one last time before powering it off completely. We don't have a choice. We'll go through the back alleys, stay off main streets. Move fast, stay low. They emerged from the alley onto a side street. Mira kept Seraphine close, one hand on her shoulder, maintaining a casual pace that wouldn't attract attention. Just a young woman and her little sister. Nothing to see. But Westbrook City had transformed. Military vehicles blocked intersections. Soldiers in tactical gear checked IDs at subway entrances. Drones buzzed overhead like mechanical wasps. It's like they're preparing for an invasion, Seraphine whispered. They are. Mira steered them around a police checkpoint. Because they think one's coming. They made it 3 blocks before Seraphine suddenly stopped, staring at a massive digital billboard. Her own face stared back at her. The security camera photo, blown up 20 feet high. Below it, dangerous supernatural minor. Do not approach. Report sightings immediately. I look scary, Seraphine said in a small voice. You look powerful, Mira corrected. There's a difference. Come on. They turned down another alley just as a police car cruised past. Myra's heart hammered. Too close. They were being too slow. Can you run? Mira asked. Yes. Then run.
Now.
They sprinted through a maze of back alleys, Myra's knowledge of the city's delivery routes guiding them. She'd spent 2 years hauling food orders through these passages. Every shortcut, every unlocked gate, every forgotten stairwell. She knew them all. Behind them, sirens wailed. Someone must have spotted them. There. Seraphine pointed at a fire escape. They scrambled up 3 stories, Mira pulling Seraphine onto a rooftop just as police flooded the alley below. They pressed flat against the roof surface, barely breathing. That was too close, Mira whispered. Seraphine's hand found hers in the darkness. Thank you. For not leaving me. Mira squeezed back. I'm not leaving you. Not until you're home safe. I promise. Below them, the city prepared for war. And 2 runaways prepared to survive it. The rooftop gravel bit into Myra's palms as she peered over the edge. Below, 8 police officers swept through the alley with flashlights, their radios crackling. Sector 7 clear. Moving to Sector 8-inch. Mira waited until their footsteps faded before sitting up. We need to keep moving. My apartment's still 2 blocks north. Seraphine nodded, but her face was drawn with exhaustion. The magic outburst at the restaurant had drained her more than she'd admitted. Can you make it? Mira asked gently. I have to. They moved across the rooftops, jumping narrow gaps between buildings. Mira went first each time, testing the distance, then helping Seraphine across. The city sprawled below them, a maze of lights and shadows, beautiful and treacherous. They were halfway to Myra's apartment when the air itself seemed to split open. A circular sigil blazed to life on the rooftop ahead, glowing red symbols that burned themselves into existence. The temperature dropped 20 degrees in an instant.
No, Seraphine, breathe.
No, they found me. 3 figures stepped through the sigil, as if walking through a doorway. They wore black combat gear and carried weapons that hummed with supernatural energy. Vampire hunters. Elite members of the King's Royal Guard. The lead hunter's eyes locked onto Seraphine. Princess. Step away from the human. Mira moved in front of Seraphine instinctively. She's not going anywhere. Human, you don't understand the situation. The princess has been compromised. We're here to bring her home.
She's not compromised.
She's scared. The hunter's expression remained cold. Nevertheless, our orders are clear. Princess Seraphine, by order of His Majesty the King, you will return with us immediately. Seraphine's voice was small behind Mira. What about Mira? The human is not our concern. Then I'm not going. The hunter's hand moved to his weapon. Princess, please don't make this difficult. She said she's not going, Mira repeated, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Not until you guarantee her safety. Not until you explain why she ran away in the first place. Our orders don't require explanations. The hunter took a step forward. Last chance. Move aside.
No.
The hunter's eyes flashed with impatience. Then you've chosen poorly. He raised his weapon, a silver baton crackling with red energy, and lunged forward. Mira dodged, but barely. The baton missed her head by inches. She grabbed a piece of loose rebar from the rooftop and swung it like a bat, connecting with the hunter's wrist. His weapon clattered away. The other 2 hunters moved simultaneously, circling around to flank them. Mira, watch out. Seraphine's warning came too late. A hunter grabbed Mira from behind, arm locked around her throat. Stand down, human. You're interfering with royal business. Mira drove her elbow backward into his ribs. He grunted but didn't let go. His grip tightened, cutting off her air. Stop it. Seraphine screamed. You're hurting her. Then come with us, princess. Willingly. Seraphine's eyes began to glow. Silver light leaked from her skin. I said, stop. The rooftop exploded with force. A wave of pure energy blasted outward from Seraphine's body, throwing all 3 hunters backward. The one holding Mira released her as he flew 15 feet, crashing into an air conditioning unit. The building beneath them groaned. Cracks spider-webbed across the roof. It's collapsing. Mira grabbed Seraphine's hand. Jump. They leaped to the adjacent building just as the rooftop caved in. Behind them, the hunters scrambled to their feet, shouting into their radios. Target located. Rooftop level. Grid 47. Human accomplice is armed and hostile. I'm not armed, Mira muttered, but there was no time to argue. They ran across 3 more rooftops, Seraphine's power making their jumps longer than humanly possible. But the hunters weren't giving up. More teleport sigils blazed to life ahead and behind, cutting off their escape routes. Down, Mira spotted a fire escape. We're sitting ducks up here. They clambered down the metal stairs, feet clanging against each step. Above them, hunters appeared on the rooftop edge, weapons raised. Energy bolts sizzled past Myra's head, scorching the brick wall. One hit the fire escape railing, melting it to slag. They dropped the last 10 feet to the ground, landing in a narrow alley filled with dumpsters. Mira grabbed Seraphine and pulled her behind the largest one just as another volley of energy bolts rained down. They're not trying to capture me, Seraphine gasped. They're trying to kill you. I noticed. Mira peeked around the dumpster. The alley opened onto a busy street, but busy meant cameras, witnesses, more police. We need a crowd. Somewhere they can't attack openly. The sound of boots on metal made them both look up. The hunters were descending the fire escape, moving with terrifying speed and precision. The subway, Mira decided. Morrison Street Station is 2 blocks east. Underground, lots of exits, harder to track. They burst from cover and ran. The street was chaos. Military vehicles, police checkpoints, panicked civilians. Everyone was on edge. Mira and Seraphine wove through the crowd, ducking behind cars and newspaper stands. Behind them, the hunters pursued like shadows, their presence causing the crowd to scatter in fear. There, Seraphine pointed. The subway entrance loomed ahead, stairs descending into fluorescent-lit tunnels. They hit the stairs at full sprint, jumping the turnstile as the attendant shouted after them. A train was pulling into the station. Mira grabbed Seraphine and shoved through the closing doors just as they sealed shut. Through the window, they saw the hunters reach the platform, just as the train lurched forward into the darkness of the tunnel. Seraphine collapsed against Mira, breathing hard. That was too close. Yeah, Myra's hands were shaking. But we're not safe yet. They'll be waiting at the next station. Then we get off before that. Mira looked at the tunnel walls rushing past. You mean? Emergency exit tunnels. I can sense them. Seraphine's eyes still glowed faintly. My magic can feel the air currents. There's one coming up in 30 seconds. You're insane. You jumped off a building with me 10 minutes ago. Mira laughed despite everything. Fair point. Okay. Emergency exit it is. Above them, in the city streets, the hunt intensified. Below them, 2 fugitives prepared to disappear into the darkness. The emergency exit tunnel smelled like rust and stagnant water. Myra's phone flashlight cut through the darkness as they navigated the narrow passage, their footsteps echoing off concrete walls. Are you sure this leads somewhere? Seraphine whispered. No idea. Mira checked the crude tunnel map she'd photographed from a maintenance panel. But it's better than being cornered on the platform. They walked for 20 minutes, climbing service ladders and squeezing through maintenance hatches. Finally, Mira pushed open a heavy grate and they emerged in a forgotten corner of the old city, the warehouse district that had been abandoned when new developments moved north. The streets here were empty. Broken streetlights cast pools of shadow between derelict buildings. Graffiti covered every surface. Seraphine shivered. This place feels dead. That's why it's perfect. Mira scanned the street, getting her bearings. Nobody patrols here.
No cameras.
Nothing valuable left to protect. She led Seraphine down 3 blocks, then stopped in front of a narrow building with boarded windows. The faded sign above the door read, Chen's Flowers, EST 1998. Seraphine looked up at it. This was my mother's shop. Mira pulled a key from the chain around her neck, the same chain that held her mother's silver flower pendant. She closed it 15 years ago when she got sick. Couldn't afford to keep it running. But she never sold the building. Said it held too many memories. The lock was stiff with rust, but it still turned. The door groaned open, revealing darkness thick with dust and the ghost of old perfume. Myra's flashlight swept across the interior. Empty display cases lined the walls. A wooden counter stood in the corner, its surface covered in a layer of dust so thick it looked like snow. Behind it, a doorway led to the back room. "It's not much," Mira said quietly. "But no one knows about it except me. We can rest here until I figure out our next move." They moved to the back room, which had been her mother's workspace. Old shelves still held dried flowers in glass jars, roses, lavender, chrysanthemums, all preserved but faded. A small cot sat in the corner, where her mother used to nap during long shifts. Mira pulled 2 dusty blankets from a storage chest and shook them out.
Seat.
"You look ready to collapse." Seraphine sank onto the cot, and only then did Mira realize how young she truly looked. Without the glowing eyes and explosive magic, she was just a small, exhausted child trying not to cry. "I ruined everything," Seraphine whispered. "The restaurant, your job, now people are hunting us. And my father, he probably thinks I hate him." Mira sat beside her, wrapping one of the blankets around both their shoulders.
Do you?
"Hate him?" "No," Seraphine's voice broke. "I just wanted him to see me. Actually see me. Not the princess he needs me to be. After Mom died, he stopped talking to me about anything real. Just lessons and duties and political arrangements. I felt like I was drowning in someone else's life." "Did you tell him that?" "He wouldn't listen. He never listens." Mira was quiet for a moment, then said, "My mom used to tell me about your mother. The vampire queen. She said your mom was the kindest person she'd ever met, vampire or human. That she fought to build bridges between our worlds when everyone else wanted walls." Seraphine's eyes filled with tears. "I barely remember her voice anymore. It's been 4 years. My mom said the queen would sneak into the gardens at midnight just to talk with the servants. That she believed power meant nothing without compassion. That she made your father, this terrifying king, laugh like a normal person." "He doesn't laugh anymore," Seraphine whispered. "Not since she died. Maybe that's why he's holding on so tight to you." Mira adjusted the blanket around Seraphine's shoulders. "Maybe he's so afraid of losing you too that he's trying to control everything. Keep you safe by keeping you contained." "But I'm not safe. I'm suffocating." "I know. And he needs to know that too." "But Seraphine." Mira tilted the girl's chin up gently, making her meet her eyes. "Running away didn't teach him anything except fear. You need to go back and tell him the truth. Tell him you need him to be your father, not just your king." "What if he doesn't care?" "He cares." Myra's voice was firm. "Look at how fast his forces mobilized. Look at the army he's raising to find you. That's not a king protecting a political asset. That's a father losing his mind with worry." Seraphine wiped her tears with the blanket. "What if it's too late? What if the war starts anyway?" "Then we stop it." Mira stood up, moving to the window. Through the boards, she could see the distant glow of the city center. Helicopters still circled. "We get you home safely, you talk to your father, and together you convince both sides that this was all a misunderstanding." "That's a lot of ifs." "Yeah," Mira turned back to her, managing a tired smile. "But I've already jumped off a building and fought vampire hunters today. What's a little diplomatic crisis on top of that?" Seraphine let out a surprised laugh, small but genuine. "You're crazy." "Probably." Mira grabbed 2 bottles of water from her backpack. She'd snagged them from a vendor's cart during their escape. She tossed one to Seraphine. "But crazy kept us alive so far. I'm not stopping now." They drank in silence for a moment. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. "Mira?" Seraphine's voice was small again. "Thank you. For not treating me like a monster." "You're not a monster." Mira sat back down beside her. "You're a kid with incredible power and no one to teach you how to handle it. There's a difference. My father tried to teach me. I was so angry at him. I stopped listening. Then when we get you home, you start listening again. And you make him start listening too. Mira pulled out her phone, staring at the dark screen. We'll rest here for a few hours. By dawn, we need to move again. The longer we stay in the city, the harder it'll be to get out. Where will we go?
North.
Toward the border. There's a neutral zone between human and vampire territory. If we can reach it, we can contact your father safely. Mira paused. That's the plan, anyway. Seraphine curled up on the cot, exhaustion finally claiming her. Mira, will you stay with me? After? When I go home. Mira looked at this child, this powerful, lonely, brave child, and felt something fierce and protective bloom in her chest. Yeah, she said softly. I'll stay. As long as you need me. Seraphine's eyes drifted closed, a small smile on her lips. Mira kept watch as the princess slept, her mother's pendant cool against her chest. Outside, two armies prepared for battle. Inside a forgotten flower shop, two allies prepared for the impossible. Director Rebecca Morrison hadn't slept in 36 hours. She stood in the Human Security Council's war room, staring at a digital map of Westbrook City covered in red markers, each one representing a reported sighting of the vampire princess. Status report, she demanded. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant James Park, stepped forward. We've deployed 200 agents across the city. Facial recognition is running on every street camera. Subway stations are locked down. We've also established a no-fly zone over the warehouse district. The warehouse district? Why there? Last confirmed sighting was near the old subway maintenance tunnels. They emerged somewhere in that sector, but we lost visual. Too many dead zones, no working cameras in that area. Rebecca studied the map. The warehouse district was a blind spot, a perfect place to hide.
Send ground teams.
Every building, every basement. I want them found within the hour. Director, with respect, Park hesitated. The vampire forces are amassing at the border. Intelligence suggests the king himself is preparing to cross into our territory. If we don't establish communication soon. Communication? Rebecca's laugh was sharp. They sent a weaponized child into our capital, Lieutenant. That's not a diplomatic overture. That's a declaration. But what if it wasn't intentional? What if the girl really did? Run away. Rebecca cut him off. You saw the restaurant footage. That level of destruction requires training, control. 10-year-olds don't accidentally demolish buildings. They were testing our response time, our defenses, our willingness to retaliate against a child. Park looked unconvinced, but said nothing. Rebecca's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and felt her stomach drop. The message was from the Secretary of Defense, President authorizing military mobilization. Prepare for vampire incursion. Rules of engagement approved. This was real now. Not a crisis exercise. Not a political maneuver. Real war. Activate the containment teams, Rebecca ordered. I want supernatural countermeasures in place at every major intersection. UV barriers, silver dispersal systems, the works. Those are lethal measures, Director. I'm aware. Rebecca's voice was cold. I'm also aware that vampire combat units can tear through our forces like paper. We level the playing field, or we lose soldiers. Your choice. Park saluted stiffly and left to relay the orders. Alone, Rebecca pulled up the file on Mira Chin again. Something about this girl bothered her. The background check had revealed more information now. Myra's mother, Sarah Chin, had worked in vampire territory 20 years ago as part of a covert diplomatic mission. The mission had been classified, but Rebecca had the clearance to dig deeper. What she found made her pause. Sarah Chin had been embedded in the Vampire Queen's household as a servant. She'd provided intelligence on vampire court politics for 3 years. Then, abruptly, her report stopped. She'd returned to human territory pregnant, refusing to discuss what had happened. The agency had let her go. Paid her well to stay quiet. Assumed she'd been compromised. But what if Sarah Chin hadn't been compromised? What if she'd actually formed real relationships there? What if her daughter knew things, connections, protocols, diplomatic channels, that could prevent this war? Rebecca stared at Myra's photo on the screen. 19 years old. No training.
No aparem agenda.
Just a waitress who'd thrown away her life to protect a runaway child. Either the girl was an idiot, or she knew something Rebecca didn't. Director? Another officer entered, tablet in hand. We've intercepted vampire communications. They're calling for the princess's immediate return. They believe we're holding her hostage. Let them believe it. Gives us leverage. But if we actually capture her? When we capture her, Lieutenant. When Rebecca's mind was already calculating. If they had the princess, they could force negotiations. Demand concessions. Maybe even end the vampire monarchy's expansion into human territories once and for all. The officer looked uncomfortable. Ma'am, she's a child. She's a weapon that looks like a child. Don't make the mistake of confusing the 2-inch. Rebecca turned back to the map. What about the waitress? Any hits on her whereabouts? Negative. It's like she knows where all our cameras are. She's avoiding main streets, staying in dead zones. Rebecca felt a grudging respect. For someone with no training, Mira Chin was doing an impressive job evading capture. Pull up her work history. Friends, associates, family properties. Anywhere she might hide. The officer tapped his tablet. Parents are deceased.
No siblings.
No close friends listed. She worked 2 jobs, Skylark Restaurant and weekend shifts at Morrison Street Library. Property ownership. Nothing in her name. Her mother owned a flower shop in the warehouse district, but it's been abandoned for years. Rebecca froze. The warehouse district. Where was this shop? The officer pulled up an address. Rebecca marked it on the map with a yellow pin, right in the center of their search grid. That's it, she said quietly. That's where they're hiding. Should we send a team? Rebecca considered. If they stormed in with full force, the girl might panic and destroy half the district. But if they waited too long, the vampires would find her first. Send a small team. 2 agents, non-threatening approach. Have them pose as civilians. If the girl is there, I want her taken alive and unharmed. We need her cooperative, not traumatized. And the waitress. Arrest her for kidnapping, terrorist assistance, and violation of the Supernatural Non-Interference Act. She'll spend the next 20 years in federal prison. Rebecca's voice hardened. She made her choice when she helped that girl escape. The officer left to coordinate the operation. Rebecca returned to the map, watching as blue markers, her agents, converged on the warehouse district like a tightening noose. Outside the war room windows, she could see military convoys rolling through the streets. Helicopters circled overhead. Citizens were being ordered to shelter in place. The city was transforming into a battlefield. And at the center of it all, a little girl who just wanted to go home. Rebecca told herself she was doing the right thing, protecting her people, preventing vampire expansion. But looking at the child's face on the screen, those terrified silver eyes, she couldn't shake the feeling that everyone was making a terrible mistake.
Her phone buzzed again.
Another message from the Secretary of Defense. Border skirmish reported. 3 vampire scouts engaged our patrol. 2 human casualties. King's army advancing. ETA 3 hours. 3 hours until war. Rebecca closed her eyes and gave the order she'd been dreading. Activate all defensive measures. Prepare for full-scale conflict. The room erupted with activity. And somewhere in an abandoned flower shop, 2 people slept, unaware that time was running out. Mira woke to the sound of footsteps. Her eyes snapped open in the darkness of the flower shop's back room. Beside her, Seraphine still slept on the cot, curled under the blanket. The footsteps came again, soft, deliberate, circling the building. Professional footsteps. Myra's heart hammered as she moved silently to the window. Through a gap in the boards, she saw 4 figures dressed in black tactical gear, moving with inhuman grace. Vampire hunters. They'd found them. Seraphine. Mira shook the girl's shoulder gently. Wake up. We need to go.
Now.
Seraphine's eyes fluttered open, still heavy with sleep. What? Quiet, Mira pressed a finger to her lips. They're here. The color drained from Seraphine's face. She sat up slowly, listening. Her vampire senses picked up what Mira couldn't: heartbeats, breathing patterns, the subtle energy signatures of supernatural beings. 4 of them, Seraphine whispered. Father's elite guard. They're surrounding the building. Is there any way to reason with them? I tried that on the rooftop, remember? Seraphine's voice trembled. They think you kidnapped me. They won't listen. A loud bang echoed through the shop as someone kicked the front door. Wood splintered but held. Barely. Back exit, Mira hissed. Move. They scrambled toward the rear of the shop, where a narrow door led to an alley. But as Myra's hand touched the handle, it exploded inward. A hunter stood in the doorway, his red eyes gleaming in the darkness. Princess Seraphine, his voice was cold, formal. Step away from the human. You're coming home. Mira pushed Seraphine behind her. She doesn't want to go with you. The princess doesn't know what she wants. She's been manipulated. The hunter took a step forward. You will release her, or you will be eliminated. Eliminated? Myra's voice was sharp with anger. She's a scared kid, not a hostage. I'm protecting her, not kidnapping her. Your protection is unnecessary. We are here on the king's orders. The king's orders are why she ran away in the first place. The hunter's expression didn't change, but his hand moved to the silver blade at his belt. Last warning, human. Release the princess. No. Myra's voice was firm despite her fear. Not until you promise she'll be safe. Not until you promise she'll actually be heard, not just dragged back to a palace that treats her like property. Behind them, the front door finally gave way. 3 more hunters entered, weapons drawn. They moved like shadows, surrounding Mira and Seraphine in seconds. The lead hunter's eyes narrowed. You dare make demands of the royal guard? I dare protect a child who needs protecting, Mira shot back. Even from her own family, if necessary. Mira, don't, Seraphine started. The hunter lunged forward, blade aimed not at Seraphine, but at Mira. He moved with supernatural speed, impossible for a human to dodge. But Seraphine was faster. A barrier of silver light erupted between Mira and the hunter. His blade struck it and rebounded, the force throwing him backward into a shelf. Glass jars shattered, dried flowers exploding into the air like a storm of petals. Stop. Seraphine's voice rang with power. Her eyes blazed pure silver. Don't hurt her. The other 3 hunters raised their weapons, energy crackling along the blades. Princess, control yourself. You're being influenced. I'm not being influenced. Seraphine's power swirled around her like a visible wind. I ran away because nobody listens to me. Nobody cares what I want. And now you're trying to hurt the only person who's been kind to me. We serve your father, the king. My father doesn't understand. Tears streamed down Seraphine's face, but her voice never wavered. He thinks keeping me locked away keeps me safe, but it's killing me. And sending you to drag me back won't change anything. The lead hunter rose to his feet, his expression harder now. Princess, we don't have time for this. Human forces are closing in on this location. If we don't extract you immediately, they will capture you. Is that what you want? I want everyone to stop. The building shuddered. Cracks spread across the walls like lightning. The floor buckled beneath their feet. Mira grabbed Seraphine's arm. You have to calm down. The building. I can't. Seraphine sobbed. I can't control it when I'm scared. The hunters exchanged glances. One spoke urgently into his radio. Target is unstable. Building integrity compromised. Requesting immediate teleport extraction. The ceiling groaned. Chunks of plaster rained down. Forget the extraction. The lead hunter made a decision. Everyone out. Now. He grabbed for Seraphine, but Mira yanked her away. Don't touch her. The hunter's patience finally snapped. He backhanded Mira across the face, sending her crashing into the wall. Stars exploded across her vision. She tasted blood.
No.
Seraphine's scream was inhuman. The entire building exploded outward. A shockwave of raw power demolished walls, shattered windows, sent hunters flying in all directions. The roof collapsed inward, beams and bricks tumbling like toys. Mira felt herself falling, the world spinning. Then strong, small hands grabbed her arm. Seraphine, using her power to create a protective bubble around them both as they fell through the collapsing structure. They hit the ground in the alley behind the shop, the bubble absorbing the impact. Around them, the flower shop that had held Myra's mother's memories crumbled into rubble. Mira. Seraphine's voice was panicked. Mira, wake up. Myra's vision swam. Her head throbbed, where she'd hit the wall.
Okay.
We have to run. They're getting up. Through the dust and debris, Mira could see the hunters rising from the rubble, battered but not defeated. One spoke urgently into his radio. Princess has fled east. In pursuit. Send reinforcements. More voices crackled through the radio. Human voices. This is human security. We have eyes on your position. Stand down immediately, or we will engage. The hunters froze. They were surrounded, vampire forces behind them, human forces ahead, and two fugitives somewhere in between. Move, Mira gasped, pulling Seraphine to her feet. While they're distracted, they ran through the alley, past dumpsters and abandoned cars, their footsteps echoing. Behind them, shouting erupted as vampire and human forces spotted each other. Then gunfire. Energy, weapons discharged. The war had begun. Mira and Seraphine ran faster, their only thought survival. They had to get out of the city, had to reach the border, had to end this before more people died. A freight train whistle echoed in the distance. There, Mira pointed. The rail yards. If we can catch a cargo train heading north. They didn't have a better plan. They ran toward the whistle, toward their last hope of escape, as the city erupted into violence behind them. King Aldrich's fist came down on the war table with enough force to crack the stone. 3 hours. His voice echoed through the command tent. My daughter has been missing for 3 hours in hostile territory, and you're telling me you still haven't found her? Commander Thorne kept his expression neutral despite the king's fury. Your Majesty, our hunters tracked her to an abandoned building in the warehouse district. But before they could secure her, human forces arrived. There was an altercation. The building collapsed. Both the princess and the human girl escaped during the chaos. Escaped? Aldrich's eyes blazed red. Or were taken. We believe. They escaped together, sire. Aldrich turned to stare at the map spread across the table. Red pins marked vampire positions. Blue pins marked human forces. And somewhere in that maze of colors, his daughter was running for her life. Show me the human again, he demanded. A guard produced a tablet displaying Mira Chen's profile, driver's license photo, work history, known associates. Aldrich studied the face.
Young.
Unremarkable. Nothing about her suggested she was a trained operative or a threat. So why would she risk everything to protect Seraphine? Your Majesty, a scout entered the tent, breathing hard. We've captured a human agent attempting to infiltrate our lines. He's requesting to speak with you directly. Says he has information about the princess. Bring him. 2 guards dragged in a man wearing tactical gear, his hands bound behind his back. Blood trickled from a cut above his eye, but his expression was defiant. I'm Lieutenant James Park, Human Security Council, the man said. I'm here under orders to negotiate. Negotiate? Aldrich's laugh was bitter. You hold my daughter hostage and speak of negotiation. We don't have your daughter, Park's voice was steady. Neither does any human agency. We've been searching for her too.
Lies.
She was seen being taken by one of your citizens. Mira Chen isn't an agent. She's a waitress who was working when your daughter showed up at her restaurant. Park met the king's eyes directly. Your daughter destroyed the place. Our people tried to detain her. Mira protected her, and they ran together. That's the truth. Aldrich stared at him, trying to detect deception. But the humans seemed sincere. If you're not holding her, then why mobilize your entire military? Because we thought you sent her as a weapon. A test of our defenses. Park's expression was grim. And you mobilized because you thought we kidnapped her. We're two idiots pointing guns at each other over a misunderstanding. The words hung in the air. Aldrich felt something cold settle in his chest. A misunderstanding. Could it really be that simple? My hunters reported that the girl, this Mira, she stood between them and Seraphine, refused to let them take her. Aldrich's voice was quieter now. Why would a human protect my daughter? That's what I've been trying to figure out. Park shifted despite his bound hands. Then I pulled deeper records. Myra's mother, Sarah Chun, worked in your territory 20 years ago. Aldrich's breath caught. Sarah Chun. You know the name? She served in my wife's household. The memory came flooding back. She was the human servant who saved the queen from poisoning. My wife spoke highly of her.
Trusted her, he paused.
That was her daughter?
Yes.
And according to intercepted radio chatter, your hunters threatened Myra's life to force the princess to cooperate. Your daughter's powers nearly killed them protecting her. Aldrich closed his eyes. The pieces were falling into place now, forming a picture that made his chest ache with guilt. Seraphine hadn't been kidnapped. She'd run away, and when his own forces had found her, they'd threatened the one person who'd shown her kindness. Of course, she'd defended Mira. Of course, she'd refused to return. She wasn't fleeing humans, Aldrich said quietly. She was fleeing me. The tent went silent. Commander Thorne cleared his throat. Your Majesty, that's not. Don't. Aldrich held up a hand. I heard her, Thorne. 2 nights ago, outside the council chamber. She was listening when I announced her betrothal to Lord Dimitri's son. I saw her shadow under the door. His voice cracked. I saw it, and I said nothing. I thought if I ignore her distress, she would accept it in time. You were protecting her future, sire. Securing alliances. I was controlling her life without asking what she wanted. Aldrich's shout made everyone flinch. Just like I've done since her mother died. Every decision made for her, never with her. Every rule designed to keep her safe, but really keeping her contained. He looked at Park. She ran because she felt trapped. And I'm the one who built the cage. Park said nothing, but there was something like understanding in his eyes. Aldrich straightened, his kingly composure returning but tempered with new purpose. Release him. And get me a direct line to your Director Morrison. Sire? Commander Thorne looked shocked. We're standing on the brink of war over a frightened child. My frightened child, who ran because I failed to be her father instead of just her king. Aldrich's voice was firm. I will not let thousands die because of my mistakes. We negotiate.
Now.
Your Majesty, if we show weakness. This isn't weakness. This is wisdom. Aldrich looked at each of his commanders in turn. My wife understood something I've forgotten. Power without compassion is tyranny. She befriended a human servant when others said it was beneath her station. That servant's daughter is now protecting our princess when she had every reason to abandon her. He turned to Park. Tell your director I'm calling a ceasefire. Both sides pull back. No more hunting my daughter like prey. We find her together, peacefully, and we bring her home safely. Director Morrison may not agree. Then you convince her. Aldrich's eyes flashed with intensity. Because if even one more person tries to hurt that girl protecting my daughter, I will burn your city to ashes. But if we work together, if we remember that we're dealing with 2 terrified young people, not political pawns, maybe we can end this without bloodshed. Park studied him for a long moment, then nodded. I'll deliver the message. Commander Thorne, release his bindings and provide him transport back to human lines. Aldrich looked at the map again, focusing on the railway yards north of the city. And ready my personal transport. I'm going to find my daughter myself. Sire, that's too dangerous. I don't care. Aldrich's voice was absolute. I let fear make me a tyrant. I let grief make me a jailer. My daughter deserves better. She deserves a father who listens. He stared at the map, his enhanced vision tracking patterns, calculating routes. Hold on, Seraphine, he whispered. I'm coming. And this time, I'm going to do better. Outside the tent, orders were shouted. Forces began to pull back from aggressive positions. And in the distance, a freight train whistle echoed through the pre-dawn darkness, carrying two fugitives toward an uncertain dawn. The freight train rattled to a stop at a rural crossing 50 miles north of Westbrook City. Mira and Seraphine jumped from the open cargo car, landing in tall grass silvered with morning dew. Where are we? Seraphine asked, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. Mira checked her phone's GPS, still off, but the map she'd downloaded earlier was cached. Near the border zone. There should be a forest sanctuary about 2 miles east. Neutral ground. Neither human nor vampire patrols go there. They walked through fields of wild wheat, the stalks whispering in the pre-dawn breeze. The sky was shifting from black to deep purple, stars fading one by one. Seraphine stumbled several times, and Mira had to steady her. How much farther? The girl asked. Not far. Can you make it? Seraphine nodded, but her face was gray with fatigue. The multiple magic outbursts had drained her completely. She looked smaller now, more fragile, just a 10-year-old who'd been running for her life for too long. The forest appeared like a dark wall ahead of them. Ancient oaks and pines rose toward the lightening sky, their branches forming a canopy so thick it looked like a roof. As they crossed the tree line, the air itself seemed to change, cooler, calmer, almost sacred. This place feels different, Seraphine whispered. It's protected by old magic. My mom told me about it once. Mira led them deeper into the woods. Long before humans and vampires went to war, this forest was neutral ground, a place where both sides could meet peacefully. The magic here suppresses aggression, violence. Even your powers should feel more stable. As if to confirm it, Seraphine's eyes stopped their constant silver flickering. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. It's quiet. Not just sound quiet. Magic quiet. They walked until they found a small clearing with a stone shrine at its center, ancient, covered in moss, but still standing. Someone had left offerings recently. Wildflowers, a carved wooden bird, a ribbon tied to a low branch. We can rest here, Mira said. At least until we figure out how to contact your father without getting killed. Seraphine sank to the ground beside the shrine, her back against the stone. For a long moment, she just sat there, staring at nothing. Then she started to cry. Not the scared, explosive tears from before. These were deep, wrenching sobs that shook her entire body. All the fear, exhaustion, and loneliness she'd been holding back came pouring out at once. Mira sat beside her and pulled her close. Seraphine buried her face in Myra's shoulder and cried like she'd been holding it in for years. Maybe she had been. I'm sorry, Seraphine gasped between sobs. I'm so sorry. You lost everything because of me. Your job, your home, your safety. Stop, Myra's voice was gentle but firm. You didn't make me do anything. I chose to help you. I'd choose it again. But why? I'm nothing but trouble. I destroy everything I touch. My father would be better off without me. Everyone would. That's not true. Yes, it is. Seraphine pulled back, her face tear-streaked and anguished. I kill my mother. Mira froze. What? She died because of me. The words tumbled out like poison she'd been holding inside. She got sick after I was born. The pregnancy weakened her. Father never said it, but I know he thinks it too. If I hadn't existed, she'd still be alive. He'd still be happy. He'd still be... Her voice broke. He'd still be the father I remember. Seraphine, no. Mira cupped the girl's face in both hands, forcing her to meet her eyes. That's not how it works. Your mother chose to have you. She wanted you. And what happened to her? That's not your fault. Sickness isn't punishment. Death isn't revenge. But father changed after she died. He stopped smiling. Stopped talking to me about anything real. Just duties and responsibilities and how I had to be perfect, had to be strong, had to be, she choked on the words. Had to be everything she was, so maybe he wouldn't notice she was gone. Oh, sweetheart, Mira pulled her close again. He wasn't trying to replace you, Mother. He was trying not to lose you too. He just forgot that protecting you and controlling you aren't the same thing. He thinks I'm a burden, Seraphine whispered. A political asset. Something to be used. He thinks you're the most important thing in his world, and he's terrified of losing you. Mira stroked Seraphine's hair. That's why he's raising armies and breaking treaties. That's why he's losing his mind right now. Not because you're useful. Because you're his daughter, and he loves you so much it's making him stupid. Seraphine let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. He's starting a war, because I ran away.
Yeah.
Stupid, like I said, Mira smiled sadly. But that's what fear does to people. Makes them speak the wrong language. Your father's language is power and control because that's all he knows anymore. But underneath that, he's just a scared dad who doesn't know how to tell his daughter he loves her. I want him to tell me, Seraphine said quietly. I want him to ask me what I want, to listen when I talk, to be my father again, not just the king.
Then you need to tell him that.
When we get you home. If we get me home. When, Mira repeated firmly. When we get you home, you tell him everything.
How you feel.
What you need. What you're afraid of. And you make him listen. Really listen. Seraphine was quiet for a long moment. The first rays of sunlight broke through the canopy, painting the clearing in shades of gold and green. What if he can't change? She asked softly. Then you keep trying. Keep talking. Keep being honest. Mira squeezed her hand. Change takes time. But it starts with one person being brave enough to tell the truth. The ground beneath them trembled. Seraphine's head snapped up. Something's coming. Mira felt it too. A presence approaching, powerful and deliberate. The forest itself seemed to bend around it, acknowledging something ancient and formidable. Through the trees, a figure appeared. Tall, dressed in dark formal attire, with silver hair like moonlight and eyes that glowed red in the dawn shadows. Vampire King Aldrich stepped into the clearing. His eyes found Seraphine immediately. And for the first time in 4 years, the terrifying king did something no one had ever seen him do. He fell to his knees. The vampire king knelt in the dirt, his formal robes pooling around him, his crown absent. For a moment, the entire forest seemed to hold its breath. Seraphine, he said, and his voice cracked on her name. Seraphine stood frozen, pressed against Myra's side. Her father, the most powerful vampire in the world, was kneeling before her like a common peasant. She'd never seen him kneel, not even in the throne room, not even before her mother's grave. Father? The word came out small, uncertain. Aldrich's red eyes were wet.
I'm sorry.
2 words, but they landed like thunder. I'm sorry I didn't listen. I'm sorry I tried to plan your life without asking what you wanted. I'm sorry I've been so afraid of losing you that I locked you away. His voice was rough with emotion. I'm sorry I forgot how to be your father. Tears spilled down Seraphine's cheeks. You think I'm a burden? You think I killed Mom? No, Aldrich's voice was fierce. Never. Your mother wanted you more than anything in this world. Her last words to me were, take care of our miracle, that's what she called you. Our miracle, he wiped his eyes roughly. I failed her. I took care of you by keeping you alive, but I forgot to let you live. Seraphine took a trembling step forward. You are going to marry me off. To someone I've never met. You didn't even ask. I know. I thought I was securing your future. I thought political alliances would keep you safe. Aldrich's hands clenched. I was wrong. I see that now. You don't need a political marriage. You need a father who listens.
Who asks?
Who lets you choose your own path. Really? Seraphine's voice was barely a whisper. Really? Aldrich looked at her with such raw love it was almost painful to witness. I don't care about alliances or politics or power. I care about you. Only you. And if you never want to see Lord Dimitri's son, you never will. If you want to study human culture, or learn to bake, or run away to become a traveling musician, I'll support you. Whatever you want, as long as you come home. Seraphine's lip trembled. You promise? I promise. On your mother's memory, I promise. She ran to him then, throwing her arms around his neck. Aldrich caught her and held her like she was made of glass and steel all at once, precious and unbreakable. I'm sorry I ran away, Seraphine sobbed into his shoulder. I'm sorry I started a war.
Sure.
No war. Not anymore, Aldrich stroked her silver hair. I've called a ceasefire. Human and vampire forces are standing down. You didn't start a war. You stopped one by being brave enough to run. He pulled back to look at her face, wiping away her tears with his thumbs. Running away taught me what I should have known all along. That you're not property to be protected. You're a person to be heard. And from now on, I'm listening. To everything. Even when I don't like what you're saying. Seraphine laughed through her tears. Even when I want to eat human food. Even then. Though we're hiring better chefs. No more bland palace meals. And I can have friends. Real friends. As many as you want. And I can go to school? With humans? Aldrich hesitated only a moment. If that's what you want, we'll make it work. Safely. Seraphine hugged him again. Tighter this time. I missed you, Dad. I missed you too, little star. His voice broke on her childhood nickname. They held each other while the sun continued rising, painting the clearing in shades of gold. Finally, Aldrich looked up at Mira, who'd been standing quietly to the side, giving them space. You must be Mira Chun, he said. Sarah's daughter. Mira straightened, suddenly aware she was face to face with the vampire king. Yes, Your Majesty. You protected my daughter when my own forces would have dragged her home in chains. Aldrich stood slowly, one hand still holding Seraphine's. You gave up everything, your job, your safety, your life, for a child you'd just met.
Why?
Mira met his eyes steadily. Because she needed help. And because my mother taught me that kindness doesn't have borders. Aldrich studied her for a long moment. Then, to Myra's shock, he bowed. A formal, respectful bow. Your mother saved my wife's life once. Now her daughter has saved my daughter's soul. The debt my family owes yours can never be repaid. I don't want payment, Mira said quietly. I just wanted Seraphine to be safe. Nevertheless, you will have it, Aldrich straightened. I'm declaring formal peace talks between humans and vampires, starting immediately. And you, Mira Chun, will be there. As an ambassador. As proof that our peoples can work together. Your Majesty, I'm not qualified. You united two enemies by showing compassion to a frightened child. You're more qualified than any diplomat I know, he smiled slightly. Besides, Seraphine won't let me refuse you. Seraphine grabbed Myra's hand. Please? Stay with me? I need someone who understands. Someone who listens. Mira looked at this little girl, this powerful, brave, beautiful child, and felt her heart swell. Of course I'll stay, she said softly. As long as you need me. Forever then, Seraphine declared. You're my guardian now. Official. Aldrich nodded. If Mira agrees, I'll make it formal. A position in the royal household. Personal guardian and advisor to the princess, he looked at Mira seriously. It means living in the palace. Dealing with vampire politics. Teaching my daughter to navigate both worlds. It means being her friend. Mira corrected gently. Everything else is secondary. Yes, Aldrich's expression softened.
Exactly that.
In the distance, the sound of helicopters approached. Human forces, vampire escorts, coming to retrieve them. But there was no violence in the air now. Only cautious hope. Aldrich activated a communication device. This is King Aldrich. I have my daughter. She's safe. Send diplomatic envoys, not soldiers. The reply crackled back. Confirmed. Director Morrison is en route for preliminary talks. Seraphine looked up at her father. What happens now?
Now.
Aldrich knelt again, meeting her at eye level. Now we go home. We eat terrible human food if you want. We talk about what you need. And we start rebuilding, not just our relationship, but the bridge between our worlds. Because one waitress showed kindness to a runaway princess? Seraphine asked. Because kindness is the most powerful magic of all, Aldrich looked at Mira with genuine gratitude. Your mother understood that.
You understand that.
And it's time my people learned it too. As the helicopters landed in the clearing, marked with both human and vampire symbols, Seraphine took her father's hand on one side and Myra's on the other. Together, she asked. Together, they answered in unison. The three of them walked toward the waiting envoys, toward a future that was uncertain but finally hopeful. Behind them, the ancient forest whispered its approval. And somewhere, Seraphine imagined two mothers, a vampire queen and a human servant, smiled down at the peace their daughters had built. Not through power or politics, but through one simple act of kindness in a chaotic restaurant when a scared girl just needed someone to offer her tea. The end.